In the grand theater of life, we all seek a comeback, a resurgence, a rekindling of our inner fire. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience. This is not just another podcast. This is a journey, a venture into the heart of human spirit, the power of resilience, and the art of reigniting our passions.
Welcome back to another episode of Reignite Resilience. I am your co-host, Natalie Davis, and I am so excited to be back with you all today. Pam, welcome. How are you?
I am fabulous, and it is Friday, so it's another one of our Friday afternoon recordings, which is a really good way to end the week. So I love it.
It is. This morning, my partner said, "Hey, it's Friday. Are you recording a podcast?" I said, "Of course I am. I do every Friday."
You need to ask that question. That's silly.
Don't even ask. And for those that are invested, today is day 12 of my cleanse. I'm feeling great. I had stacked appointments today, though, so I had to grab lunch on the way out the door, and I forgot half of it on the kitchen counter. And so I just ate it before getting on so that I'm not hangry with all of you because I was almost there.
I don't know if a mouthful of tomatoes would make me non-hangry, but
oh, it's so good. I love it. And tomatoes have become like the highlight of this whole cleanse. I just enjoy it. It's weird because typically my afternoon, I'll call it my vice, is either popcorn or a handful of gummy bears. So my body is grateful that it's a handful of tomatoes.
Yes. Better than the gummy bears. I love it.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, we have a special guest for you all today, and I am so excited to dive in. We have Sara Webb that is joining us today, and she is a lesbian and a heartbreak resilience coach, and she works to empower lesbians and queer people to get over their ex and get back to themselves. We are all about empowerment here as we talk about resiliency, so we're excited to hear about that. Sara also teaches pocket-sized techniques that her clients can use anywhere to process stress and improve their daily happiness so that they can bring the best version of themselves to their own lives. Sara, welcome. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I am well. I am so excited that you are on and that we have the opportunity to share your story with our listeners. I would love to just hear how you started on this path of becoming a lesbian and heartbreak resiliency coach, because that is very specific.
You know, this profession, this career chose me. I was operating primarily as an inspirational speaker and a meditation coach when my now ex-wife asked for a divorce. And I didn't know at the time that I was going to be shifting my meditation coaching into healing the trauma of heartbreak. But once I utilized the techniques that I had been teaching all of my clients and just applied them in a really precise way, I discovered that even though the divorce from her was the deepest heartbreak I've ever experienced from somebody else, I would say I broke my own heart first by abandoning myself. But the largest, deepest outside heartbreak I healed within a few weeks because I went and did the subconscious reprogramming. Because anytime we're suffering, pain is a sign that there's some sort of an unmet need going on. We're not getting our needs met. But the suffering is because of the story or stories that we're telling ourselves about the pain. And anytime we've got stories we're working with, that's trauma. Mm-hmm. That is core wounding, core beliefs, disempowering beliefs that are not serving us. Yeah. And so previously I was helping people who had high functioning anxiety. It's a very specific type of anxiety where we're constantly vigilant. We take on too much. We end up overwhelmed. And turns out heartbreak is a lot like that. So I was able to utilize a lot of the data that I've already accumulated, because I'm kind of at that intersection of spirituality and science where Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the chakras. Did you know that every single one of the chakras is right next to an endocrine system gland? Mm-hmm. So this is our hormones. This is going to affect how we feel.
Yeah.
And so when I did that, I just have found the most success and the most honor serving my community. It was definitely a leap of faith because I come from strict Southern Baptist Bible Belt home and was in the closet squarely, intentionally for years because I was afraid I was going to be rejected. And my parents still changed the subject. Anytime they refused to come to my wedding, to my now ex-wife. And so me really stepping into serving my community has been so transformative and so healing. And I think that this was, just me really stepping into my full authenticity. And queer hearts break harder. This is what I believe. This is the name of my forthcoming book, is that queer hearts break harder. Either we're in the closet and we're heartbroken, or we're out of the closet and we're heartbroken. And oftentimes none of that has to do with romance.
It's the closer relationships for the people that are in our community, our tribes that surround us, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. So much in this country is wrapped up in religion and belief. And I have a strong faith. I just don't believe that God makes mistakes,
Exactly.
My birth parents still, we have a relationship, but they actively deny that I am a lesbian.
Yeah.
Even though I came out when I was 38 years old.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Sara, when did you, if you don't mind, as we talk about this, when did you realize yourself that you were a lesbian, and what was that process for you personally coming out? What did that look like for you?
I knew I was gay when I was 18, the first time I kissed a woman.
Yeah. Okay. That's crystal clear.
Yeah.
I love it.
I was too afraid to come out. And so I hid in the closet, dated primarily women. And then when it came to procreation, I was like ready to start a family. I knew my family would not accept me. And even although I had some pretty serious sexual trauma that occurred when I was 28, I was raped by 8 men. I still stayed in the closet, tried to do what my parents thought, or what I thought my parents, it's that classic people pleasing. It's so much mental gymnastics. It's what I think that they want me to do, right?
Yes.
Harming ourselves, manipulating ourselves to try to be acceptable to somebody else. And after that rape, I am really grateful that my subconscious did exactly what it was supposed to do. It just shoved it down, and I did not deal with it until years later when I started meditating. And it was like just that still small voice, like, hey, you need to deal with this. You need to look at this. Yeah. So I started seeking relief and have since been trained in numerous different disciplines that I utilized in order to basically release myself from this prison that I had put myself in.
Yeah. Wow.
So the resilience started early, and I believe that there are 3 levels to resilience: your body, your breath, and your mind. And that's the way that humans develop. We develop in utero, our bodies. We take our first breath, and then we learn how to breathe over a few weeks of life. But the mind takes the better part of a decade to develop. We don't have a prefrontal cortex. We're actually in a meditative state. We're in delta brainwaves from 0 to 2. And then we're in theta brainwaves from ages 2 to 7. So we're very impressionable. We're in that hypnagogic, hypnopompic state, similar to where we are as adult humans the first few minutes to first hour after waking, and then also before going to bed. Mm-hmm. So the work that I do to heal heartbreak involves just harnessing the body, the breath, and the mind. Because when we suffer from stress response, when we start going to middle school, probably. And even in elementary school, the mind chatter starts to take over the body and the breath.
Yeah.
And so the mind is ruling the body and the breath. And so if we can cultivate body awareness and really hone awareness of our breath, then we can really look at the mind, because we have 70,000 to 90,000 thoughts every day. 95% of them are the same as the day before.
Repeated over and over again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And 80% are negative. So when we can harness the body and the breath and really look at what are the disempowering things that I'm allowing to control me, then we've got control. And then when we notice ourselves getting triggered, we notice that state of fight or flight, we're not breathing properly, we're tensing, then we can go in and use these, I call them pocket-sized techniques that you don't need a pocket for. Yeah. You can pull them out anywhere, anytime, and turn that on its head and allow the body and the breath to take back control of the mind.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, and I would love for us to dive into those techniques a little bit later. We'll leave that for some of those that we can pull out. Maybe we'll leave our listeners with a few.
Yeah. And a really simple, easy one is just breathing from the belly. Safe for everybody. Yeah. Because a lot of times, especially as women, we're taught intrinsically and extrinsically to suck in our bellies. And that's holding tension, where when we're doing that, we're not able to really utilize the full capacity of our lungs. But when we can relax the belly enough, then the lungs fill up completely. It's not really a belly breath, right? It's just that our lungs are filling up completely. The lungs can possibly inhabit where the rib cage sits. That's how much it can expand. But typically, we're not really allowing the diaphragm to contract. But when the diaphragm contracts, then our belly muscles push out.
Yeah.
So it's not really a belly breath necessarily. I'm sure you all know that. But
we're just letting the space, we're filling in that space as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So belly breathing is really important, and just breath awareness, so that, like, they're calling it tech apnea or email apnea, where people are just holding their breath, waiting for that next email to come in. And we don't even realize that we're holding our breath. And so just cultivating this awareness is the first step.
Yeah. And we've talked before. I used to have an Apple Watch, and every once in a while it would say breathe. And I'm like, what? Did I stop breathing? I obviously did, but you're so like focused on something, you just don't even realize that you're not taking a breath.
Wow. Wow. So 20 years before coming out of the closet, basically. And I've heard stories just from personal friends, but if you would share with our listeners, I mean, you're what that's like when you're hiding an entire portion of who you are from those closest to you and to strangers in most cases, other than whoever you allow into that space. What was that journey like during that those 2 decades for you?
We live in this 3D world. The 3Ds are deny, distract, dissociate. And I was the queen of it. I was able to just act like, well, this is what's keeping me safe. I remember distinctly, because I have a sibling who's gay and I'm the oldest. And I said, I didn't tell my parents when I started kissing boys. Why would I tell them I'm kissing girls? Like, this is their business, Because I knew that they wouldn't be happy. Coming from such a strict household, I knew they wouldn't be happy about either one of them. And I just found like it was none of their business. And so I was just able to dissociate and act like this is not something we're going to talk about. And I learned that from my home, that the denial is a very useful tool.
Yes.
Until it's not, right?
Exactly. It's great until you can't do it any longer.
Right.
Yes.
I had a sibling as well, female, male. Was it a brother, sister? Or?
Yeah, I have one of each.
Okay. And so did they come out at the same time, or did they kind of do the same thing that you did?
Yeah, I mean, they have their own journeys, so I'll let them tell their stories, and some of them are more public than others. So, some of them are out, and others are not. So I'll just let them do their own thing. But it just depends on the certain set of data that we have as humans. It's like you can be at the scene of the same accident, and because of the data that we have, we process things differently.
Yes.
And it's being filtered by our reticular activating system, the RAS in the brain. And because we've got these core wounds based off of like childhood trauma, whether that was big T trauma or little T trauma, we all have trauma. We have these core wounds, and then we have subconscious needs that really, by and large, we humans are not really aware of what our true needs are. But neuroscience has proven that every single thing we're doing is us trying to get our needs met somehow. And so when we can become aware of our needs and then work to meet our own needs, and then be able to communicate about our core wounds, and then rewrite the subconscious, really disempowering subconscious programs that we have running.
Right.
This is when we can change the way that we experience life, because then our reticular activating system is not filtering for the same things.
Yeah.
Right.
And or it is filtering to make sure that we can meet our so that we can meet our own needs, and then be able to communicate our needs to our partner, and so we can receive them back.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of healthy relationships.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that that's such a powerful starting point, and many people don't realize that in honing in on what those needs are, and taking that time to reflect on the big or little T traumas that you're bringing into that space, that relationship, that experience, whatever that's going to be. Do you help individuals in identifying the needs and pinpointing some of those traumas that may pop up in their lives and the relationships?
Oh yeah, that's the work. Yes. So I utilize those 3 levels of resilience: body, breath, mind, in all the techniques and tools. I have an extensive, I call it the folding within process. And this process is a 9-step process where clients are actually led through this. They're taught to do it on their own, but I coddle for a little while and teach them how to do it with me. And then they're taught actually how to do it on their own and do the reprogramming on their own. So that's more of an eyes closed meditation where you're accessing these deeper states of consciousness. I also use the power technique, and this is something that you can use with eyes closed, of course, but you can also use it with eyes open when you're in a triggered moment, just to really become aware. And then we systematically relax these 4 points in the body so that we can have a relaxed muscle state and be able to face something with a fully oxygenated brain and a fully oxygenated heart. And then we also use those mindset techniques to almost like whisper to ourselves from above. So we use these guided meditations that I lead in order to allow clients to root it in before it happens, so that they're able to pull out these tools when they're in a trigger state. Because that's the real trick, is to remember, because we've got these well-worn neural pathways in the brain that, of course, it's very easy to go down that well-worn path. But it's just like if we move to a new area of town and we're on our way home from work and we're like, oh, that's not the way I'm supposed to go.
I don't live there anymore. That's right.
I don't live there anymore. Turn that car or your feet around if you're, taking public transit, and take the right bus route. And so then we're wearing that new pathway in the brain and using these techniques to really root it in. All the programs that I have, well, I do one-on-one, but we do a lot of group programs, and we have constant support throughout the week. So people have aligned to me through a video chat on Marco Polo. That way, if something comes up, they can come on and get support. And then we our developing community as we bump along there. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Reignite Resilience. We hope that you had amazing ahas and takeaways. Remember to subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like it and download the upcoming episodes. And if you know anyone in your life that is looking to continue to ignite their resilience, share it with them. We look forward to seeing you on our future episodes. And until then, continue to reignite that fire within your hearts.